I'm just going to give this a few more seconds because it's 1 on the dot. See everybody piling in.
Yeah, give everybody a chance to get in here.
Yeah. Let's see that count go up. I see Hannah, I see John, Logan, Austin, Aaron, Christopher. We love to see it.
We'd love to see everybody here.
We'd love to see everybody here. It's a lot of certifications, Toby. It's almost like you know what you're talking about.
Man, it's been a long journey. I was just talking with the senior certification guru the other night. And,
wow.
Yeah, it's interesting like how things have evolved over time. You know, the CSWP used to be a live. You had to go for 8 hours. I think it cost like $500, and you had to sit with a proctor, with a certified instructor, certified proctor. So you go to a reseller, and then you sit there for 8 hours and take the certified SolidWorks professional exam.
That's insane.
Isn't that crazy?
I know. And look at us now. Virtual MIPs. Wow.
Yeah, exactly. We got it all now.
We got it all. All right. Some people are still making their way in, but I think we should go ahead and get started. Ladies and gentlemen, engineers, manufacturers, CSWAs and CSWEs, welcome to this breakout. We have the one, the only Toby Schnars with us to tell us about what's the 3D experience anyway. A wonderful presentation. We'll be fielding questions. We'll have the chat open, but I will now completely shut up and leave it to the man with all the certifications in his office.
Well, thank you so much for that intro, Lori, and of course thank you to the amazing Design Point team for putting together this event. I hope everybody's having a good day. I hope everybody's learning a lot, and it's my pleasure to be here presenting. My name is Toby Schnars. I was here last year presenting as well, and I'm so honored that Design Point asked me to come back to talk about the wonderful world of 3D experience. I work for Dassault Systems, originally on the SolidWorks team, and now doing a lot more with 3D experience. I am a certified SolidWorks expert, and my official job role is industry process consultant here at Dassault. Oh, I got an alarm going off. Hold on a second. We got everybody panicked. There's an alarm. No, it stopped. Okay, we're good. Sorry about that, everybody.
Get the cookies out of the oven and then maybe come back to this presentation. Okay. No,
perfect timing. Perfect timing. All right. Well, so today we're going to talk all about 3D experience, and the title of this presentation is "What is 3D experience?" So hopefully by the end of this presentation, everyone in the audience will have a good understanding, kind of the overall picture of what 3D experience is, as well as how it's broken down, and ultimately how you can intelligently discuss and purchase elements of a 3D experience. So we'll get to the end and we'll talk about this quote that I have, but 3D experience is a business platform. And a lot of times the way that I like to take that idea and break it down a little bit further, you know, if somebody asked me on the street, hey, Toby, what is 3D experience? What I would say is that 3D experience is a subscription-based web portal that your entire team can log into. And within this portal, you're going to find tools for business development. So going out and finding new customers, ensuring that your projects are completed and delivered on time, quoting customers, and also going out to your existing customers and selling them new product. So there's tools within this portal to help with that element of business. And there's also tools within this portal to help out with product development. So taking something that's just an idea and turning it into something you can sell to your customers. That might be a physical product like a mechanically engineered device. It might be a digital product like an application. It might even just be an event. You know, you're just organizing an event for your customers. But regardless of how you're using this tool, it's all in one unified system. It's the communication element of this tool that really separates it from other solutions that are out there, and certainly from disconnected solutions. Everyone is logging into one single location. All the data is in one single location. You don't have to wait for a coworker to come back tomorrow to email you the information you need, because you can all access the same information. You can all find it from one single location. So I'll circle back to this quote at the end, and hopefully when we get to the end, everyone will understand what it is and what it means. But if you do have any questions along the way, feel free to enter those questions in. Lori and the Design Point team are going to be helping me out to make sure I don't miss any questions along the way. So with that, I've put together just kind of a quick video here showing what a new user might see when they log into 3DEXPERIENCE. So here you can see I'm going to a web portal from any device, logging into 3DEXPERIENCE, and I'm presented with kind of a welcome screen. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to create a new layout. A lot of times I like to describe 3DEXPERIENCE almost like it's its own online operating system, the online platform. And so what I'm going to do is create a new layout, almost like I'm setting up monitors in Windows. Like today I'm presenting, I have 3 monitors. I have one over here, one here, and one here. I'm going to create 3 tabs here in 3DEXPERIENCE in this new blank layout. And this is kind of how I personally envision these tabs. It's almost like each tab is its own monitor in Windows. But instead of the operating system being Windows, the operating system is 3DEXPERIENCE. So on this first tab, I'm creating a team message board. On the second tab, I'm going to have my file storage for the team. And on this third tab, I'm going to create a kind of news area. Now, my company makes chairs. So I'm going to create a news area about chairs, gaming chairs, folding chairs, any kind of chair you can imagine my company makes. So I'm now going to go in here and I'm going to launch a program. And we call these programs applications in 3DEXPERIENCE. And one of the applications that we use is a message boarding application. So to launch it, I'm just going to drag and drop it onto my monitor, very similar to how you would launch a program from another operating system. And so this program that I'm launching here is a message board that my whole team is going to use to communicate and discuss our new chair design. So we've got ideas for different materials. You know, I think it should be made out of leather. Pleather is cheaper. And now as the kind of lead project engineer, I'm going to try and spice things up a little bit by posting an image of a chair. What about a chair that looks something like this? Now, to get this image, all I need to do is find the image somewhere. Maybe it's a photograph, maybe it's something that I find on a Google search, maybe it's a SolidWorks design, and I just need to take a picture of that image. So in this case, I'm going to use Windows snipping tool. I just sketch something up here. You know, maybe it's an image and I mark it up. Whatever you're doing, I'm just using Windows snipping tool here, doing a copy and paste. And I'm just showing this very simple example to show you that you don't need super complex tools to help drive a design, to help drive the team and keep the team moving forward. I can access this message board from any device, take a picture of something that'll help move the project forward, and I can post that and get some feedback from my team. Now, another program or another application that we have is online file storage. We call this 3D Drive. And so for 3D Drive, what I'm going to do is I'm going to create an online file repository for this project. You can see the project is called Chair Project. And I'm not going to invite everyone from the company. I'm only going to invite people that are on the team that is working on this project. So I can go through and I can control who's actually invited to share those files. Now on this last tab, I'm going to create another tool. I'm going to add another application or a program. This one's an RSS feed reader. So this is a tool that you can use to go out and pull RSS feeds from the internet. In this case, these are all going to be news stories about gaming chairs. And I can see the headline for each of these. I can click on one and kind of get a quick preview. That one's really not that interesting to me. Okay, here we go. Gaming chairs, market outlook 2020. That's one that's very interesting to me. And so then I'm going to click on the link and that's going to take me to the actual story. So RSS feed reader. Very simple, very straightforward, but this is kind of what you would expect to see when you're just getting started with 3DEXPERIENCE. A tab to organize my team message board, a tab for file storage, a tab for news about chairs. This is a great layout for me to help move forward with this new chair design project. Not only me, but really my entire team. I can share this layout with other members of the team so that we can all get in there. We can all log in and see that same information and communicate. And that's really the essence of 3DEXPERIENCE. So at this point, we've shown just a little, kind of sneak preview of what you might see in 3DEXPERIENCE. We showed kind of how to get in there, what a new user might see when they're working in 3DEXPERIENCE. Let's just talk for a minute about roles, because what I showed you there was how we can take applications and we can drag and drop them in and utilize the functionality of those applications. And what 3DEXPERIENCE does is it goes through and takes these applications and it groups them together into what we call roles. So for example, the fundamental role in 3DEXPERIENCE is called Collaborative Business Innovator. This is the foundational role. It's a prerequisite to all other roles, and it contains over a dozen apps. And some of these apps are apps you've already seen here, like the app that we use to do message boarding, the app that we use to do file storage, the app for the RSS feed reader. There's a lot of apps included in that first bundle of tools, first bundle of apps. But maybe that's not enough for your company. Maybe your company wants to get into some revision management and data management and assigning tasks to one another. Well, then you would be interested in an additional role, the role called collaborative industry innovator. Or maybe your company wants to utilize the plugin for SolidWorks to allow your existing SolidWorks users to push their files up into 3D Experience right from the SolidWorks interface. We've got a role that can help with that. Maybe your company has a project planner necessity where you want to create Gantt style charts and you want to organize based on a calendar a series of tasks and then push those tasks out to your team members. We have a role that can help with that. Maybe your company wants to do online 3D CAD in a browser, whether that's doing parts and assemblies or doing sub-D modeling. We've got roles that can help with that. And maybe your company needs to really leverage some of the high-end simulation solvers that are available in 3D Experience, leveraging the technology of the Abacus solvers. Well, we've got simulation type of roles that are available for your team as well. And the way that these roles work is that your company purchases, a bundle of these roles, however many you need for your different employees, but not every employee needs the same roles. Not every employee needs a simulation role. Not every employee needs a project planner role. Not every employee needs 3D CAD in the cloud. So not every employee needs all of those roles. So the administrator will then be able to distribute those roles to the individual users, and that's going to control what applications they have access to. I know this is a lot of terminology, but my goal for today's presentation is just to help you when you're having these conversations about what to purchase and how 3D Experience works. And hopefully I'm accomplishing that goal by breaking down some of these terms. So roles are bundles of apps. For example, we often talk about the app called XDesign. That's your 3D CAD in the cloud. Well, that application belongs to a role called 3D Creator. So when you're looking to purchase the role that gives you the capabilities to do 3D CAD in the cloud, that's the name of the role that you would be looking for. Let me just neglected to exit that program. There we go. So the last term that you'll probably hear throughout the day and throughout your dealings with 3D Experience is the term 3D Experience Works or 3D Experience Works Portfolio. And what the 3D Experience Works portfolio is simply a collection of all these roles. When you hear the term 3D Experience Works, it's a collection of all these roles that are really optimized or succinct with SolidWorks users and the SolidWorks user experience. And this portfolio has been broken down into 5 different domains. So there's a design engineering domain, which contains a series of roles. And then in each of those roles, we've got apps. There's a simulation domain, which contains a series of simulation-related roles, manufacturing production domain, a governance domain, and a marketing sales domain. 5 different domains available in the 3D Experience Works portfolio. So if you hear that term, what is 3D Experience? What is 3D Experience Works? What's the 3D Experience Works portfolio? They're all very similar. It's all right in the same ballpark, subtle little differences between them, but it's basically the same idea. It's a collection of roles. So again, just to kind of review some of this terminology, and of course, if anybody has any questions, feel free to let me know. You can see here that the 3D Experience is a web portal which uses apps to help develop and organize businesses. Roles are bundles of these apps which can be purchased and assigned to end users. And the 3D Experience Works portfolio is just a logical organization of these roles into different domains. And I hope that, oh yeah, question.
Yeah, I got a question actually from Brian, because you were like, if you have some questions, and I was like, well, I got one.
Sure.
I have someone who asked here, can you set up templates for 3D Experience?
Sure, yeah. So there's a couple of different ways you can do that. The most common way that you would set up a template would be that you would create a layout that works well for you, that works well for your team, and then you can share that layout to the rest of the team. There's some other elements, some other nuanced ways of accomplishing this as well. But yeah, definitely once you create a layout that you think works well, maybe to start a project and you want to reuse that, it's very easy to reuse that layout and to share that layout with the rest of your team. So yeah, definitely. Great question, Brian. And if anybody else has questions, please keep them coming. That's a great question though. And I hope that that answers the question. Of course, there's a lot of different libraries in 3D Experience, whether you're talking about your materials libraries or users groups that are, a group of users that's organized together to make it more easy to select them. All kinds of different libraries you can set up as well to help make your business operate as efficiently as possible. So now that we've covered kind of some of these basic terms, now hopefully when you hear the term either 3D Experience or 3D Experience Works or 3D Experience Works Portfolio, it makes a lot more sense. Let's break this down a little bit and talk about some of the highlights from each of these domains. And we'll start out by talking about the design and engineering domain. So within the design and engineering domain, you're going to find the tools that are used for design and engineering, right? You're going to find a lot of the online 3D CAD and the cloud-based tools. And the first of those tools that you'll probably be exposed to is called 3D Creator. And the primary role in 3D Creator is XDesign. So you can see here on the screen what XDesign looks like. This is true cloud-based 3D CAD. This means that you don't need any overhead for running this software. It'll run on almost any device. It'll certainly run on any laptop, any computer, any Mac. You can run it on a tablet. It does leverage some of the existing hardware on your system, but there's no install. So what I mean by that is if you have two laptops side by side and one of them has a better graphics card, it'll run a little more smoothly on that one because it's leveraging some of the internal resources, but you don't have to perform an install on either of those devices. Now, the reason that's significant is because it opens up your capabilities as a user or as a manager to access the CAD data and make subtle little changes from any device. Maybe during the day, you primarily run 3D Creator from your laptop, but then at night, you want to open up and look at a design on your tablet and make a couple of subtle little changes. You have the freedom to do that because
Fun fact. Toby, actually.
Yep. Go ahead, hit me.
Wanted just to interject here because Andres and Abigail, them DPers, they actually gave a 3DX presentation earlier, and they wanted to prove how you really can run this from anywhere. And I believe that Andres pulled it up on his smart fridge. So before you grab your bottle of water, if you want to check out a design and you got a smart fridge, you can do it right from there.
That's so funny. Wow, smart fridge. That's so cool. I did not know that. That is indeed a fun fact. So I don't know if you're going to access it from your smart fridge, but hopefully you can see the value in being able to access your designs anytime, from any location, and from any device. The 3D Creator role will give you access to parts and assemblies. It will also give you the ability to do surface design, and built right into this tool is revision management. The functionality of revision management comes in a role called Collaborative Industry Innovator. That's a prerequisite role to 3D Creator, and any files you create in 3D Creator will automatically be part of the Enovia-based data management scheme. So this is going to give you a lot of power for creating snapshots of your designs along the way, revision A, revision B, revision C, so that at any point you can go back and re-examine those earlier designs. So that's one of the apps that's part of that design and engineering domain. Another one of the apps that you'll hear about will be 3D Sculptor, which lets us do subdivisional modeling, 3D Sheet Metal Creator, which allows us to do true sheet metal design in the cloud. And then we've got a couple of apps that are kind of companions to 3D Experience, 3D Experience Draft Site and 3D Experience SolidWorks. Now, these are different from the top three because these actually get installed on your computer, but are always communicating with 3D Experience for the data management end of things. So one of those roles that I mentioned was 3D Sculptor Subdivisional Modeling. If you've never seen this before, the difference between subdivisional modeling and traditional 3D CAD is that subdivisional modeling starts out with kind of a blob. We call it a primitive. So you can see here, I'm going to design a remote control here, and I'm going to start out by just dragging this rectangular blob in and then resizing it by dragging and dropping these handles. So this is an alternative to doing complex, swoopy, lofty surface design. And one of the interesting things is that when you're doing surface design, your challenge is always to ensure that every transition has continuous curvature. But when you do sub-D modeling, it already automatically has continuous curvature. So it's just kind of built right in. And if you want to, you can break that. You can add what's called a crease. But by default, you're going to be able just to kind of pull your designs and quickly create geometry that would probably take hours and hours in traditional SolidWorks. Of course, because 3DEXPERIENCE and SolidWorks are connected, you can always bring those files down into SolidWorks like you saw at the end there. So we started out in SolidWorks. We created we took those models from SolidWorks, dropped them into 3D Sculptor, did our kind of blob design in 3D Sculptor, and then we were able to easily push that info back down into SolidWorks for maybe the mold design or applying the final plastics features like the ribs or maybe splitting the files. Sure, you could do that in 3D Creator as well, but maybe you're more comfortable doing it in SolidWorks. That works fine too. Whatever works for you. So another one of these roles we'll find in the design and engineering domain is called 3D Sheet Metal Creator. Just like 3D Creator and 3D Sculptor, 3D Sheet Metal Creator is entirely browser-based. You don't have to install any software. You can run this from any device with a web browser. And 3D Sheet Metal Creator is going to give you tools that work for you if you're utilizing sheet metal design. Maybe you never do anything swoopy, lofty, but you do a lot of sheet metal design. Well, then maybe 3D Sculptor isn't the best fit for you, but 3D Sheet Metal Creator might be a perfect fit for you. And because this is all cloud-based CAD, what it means is that you're not on the hook for ensuring that you've got hardware that can run the latest and greatest version of the software. That means you don't have to necessarily update your computers every year or every 2 years. You might be able to get away with an older computer for much longer because all of the computing is taking place in the cloud. So it's just another benefit of utilizing these true cloud-based CAD solutions. Now, that being said, you might already have an infrastructure with a lot of users who are very comfortable with SolidWorks. Maybe you want to take advantage of the ease of use of the data management part of 3DEXPERIENCE, but you've already got a lot of SolidWorks users who are, professional expert level. Well, we also offer a solution for that, and one of those solutions is called 3DEXPERIENCE SolidWorks. Now, this is a thick client, meaning this does still get installed on your PC, and you can see here it looks pretty much exactly like SolidWorks, but this will always be connected to the internet. You have to be on the internet to launch it, and it will always be connected to and looking at the data management section of 3DEXPERIENCE, the vault section of 3DEXPERIENCE. So as soon as you're done creating your designs in traditional SolidWorks, all you need to do is go over to the task pane, which you can see over here on the right, and you can see you've got access to the full data management stream in 3DEXPERIENCE. And this means that just like we saw earlier with the remote control example, we're able to take these files, we're able to push these files up to 3DEXPERIENCE so the rest of the team can view the files in apps like 3D Play. It's a cool viewing app that everyone on the team has access to. You don't need to download and install a viewer. Everyone on the team will be able to use that info to communicate on the message board. And some of the members of the team would even be able to create their own designs using something like 3D Creator or 3D Sculptor to further develop this project. So 3DEXPERIENCE SolidWorks, also a great solution that's available in the design and engineering domain. And we've got, many more roles than what's shown here, but I think these are kind of the highlights right now. These are things that are getting SolidWorks users the most interested. 3D Creator, true CAD in the cloud, parts and assemblies, 3D Sculptor, Subdivisional Modeling entirely in the cloud, 3D Sheet Metal Creator, create sheet metal designs, create flat patterns, export to DXF, all from a cloud-based solution, a browser-based solution. And then at the bottom, 3DEXPERIENCE Draft Site and 3DEXPERIENCE SolidWorks, which are very similar to their traditional desktop companions. They are installed as a thick client, but they're always connected to the internet. You always have to be on the internet to launch the program, and the program will always be saving your files up to 3DEXPERIENCE for utilizing data management in the cloud. So now that we've talked a little bit about the design and engineering domain, let's take a look at some of the other domains. Simulation. Simulation, I think, really epitomizes the vision of 3DEXPERIENCE in that we wanted to create something that was as easy and user-friendly as SolidWorks, but had the power of Innovia, of CATIA, of Simolia, and Abacus. And with the simulation solutions, you really start to see some of that power. Things we could never do in SolidWorks, we can absolutely accomplish in simulation. Really kind of the mission statement of these roles is to give you the ability to solve any simulation. And we'll take a look at some of these here in a moment, but just like our other solutions, not everyone needs the advanced engineering capabilities of simulation. So we've got different levels of simulation apps depending on what your company needs. But once you decide on what the appropriate level is, you're going to see you're going to be able to do very complex, compressive study here on this rubber fender that, would definitely either we couldn't do it in SolidWorks or it would take hours and hours and possibly days to solve. This product, the simulation related products do install on your desktop, but all the computing takes place in the cloud. So you're able to set up a study, run it, and then let the servers from 3DEXPERIENCE do all the heavy lifting. Here you can see a tube hydroforming example that we can do in the high-end simulation available from Simolia, available in 3DEXPERIENCE. Here you can see a crushing a can example. And, I love this kind of stuff. I could nerd out on this math all day. I could watch these simulations over and over again all day. But there's important practical ramifications of some of these types of studies. And one of those comes in the form of our customer, Biodapt. So Biodapt was founded by a gentleman named Mike Schultz. Unfortunately, he was involved in an extreme sports accident where he lost his left leg. So what did he do? He went out and he started a company that makes prosthetic limbs specifically for extreme sports athletes. So you can imagine that there is a lot of stress calculations that need to be done because, as always, you're fighting with the idea of creating a model that won't break down, but that is as light as possible. And so what Mike says is that with 3DEXPERIENCE, we can check clearances and ranges of motions. We can simulate that the model, we can simulate that. We can model around that range of travel. We can run strength analysis and ensure that the model is as lightweight and as strong as possible, all using the power of 3DEXPERIENCE. So in the case of this prosthetic leg here, you can see that on the foot section, there's a cover. Well, Mike was able to run a crush analysis of that foot using the power of 3DEXPERIENCE and Simolia. And so again, he's able to get in here. He's able to see if this anticipated load is going to be enough that it's going to damage the interior components of the foot. And if it is, he understands what needs to be done to strengthen that design. And this doesn't only apply to, the final result, it also applies to the manufacturing process along the way. Here you can see an example of using 3DEXPERIENCE and the physics solvers to do a deep draw type of a die, and to determine what's actually going to happen to the material in those regions. So we're able to utilize simulation in the manufacturing process to determine that we've got the correct size blank, but ultimately to determine that, our final design is going to be able to withstand those forces and kind of anticipate what that final design is going to look like. What is this deep draw actually going to do to the wall thickness in those regions? How much thinner is it going to be in those deepest regions? And this is something else that we can utilize the power of 3DEXPERIENCE and the Abacus solvers to help our company accomplish. So like I said, I love the simulation stuff. I could talk about that all day and not run out of steam, but unfortunately we have a limited amount of time together. So let's talk about a couple of these other domains. We'll talk about the governance domain now. And
wait, Toby, wait.
Oh yeah, sure.
Right before we get into governance, actually, somebody asked a fantastic question. Tom G said, what file format is best to use between Subd Modeler and SolidWorks? Is it native, proprietary, or necessarily neutral, like STEP? Do files have custom properties that carry through?
So great. So that's essentially there's two questions there. And with regards to the custom properties, to a degree, just like when you're doing any data management, it requires a little bit of setup to ensure that the mapping is correct. But once that's set up, you should be good to go. And then the first question was, what's the file format that comes out of that Subd modeling? It just goes right out into 3D XML or SLD XML, which can be brought directly into SolidWorks. Now, if you're utilizing SolidWorks and 3D Creator or 3D Sculptor together, there is a data management flow where you can push the files back and forth and just access the files right from your task pane in SolidWorks. But if you're not using them together, like let's say, for example, you only want 3D Sculptor You just want to have one of the members of your team doing 3D Sculptor to create the initial design, and then they want to hand that off to SolidWorks in a vacuum, not using the automation from 3D Experience. Some of our customers, that's exactly what they want to do, and that's fine. You know, we offer that as a solution too. All you would need to do is file save as SLD XML. That's out of 3D Sculptor. So you finish creating your sub D model. Every model that I've created, without fail, has created a true watertight vessel. So there's no cleanup on the SolidWorks side. The only exception to that would be if there was an obvious overlap. Like if you obviously pushed one surface through the other, and you can clearly see that it's a problem, you know, then it's going to fail on the way out, or really before you even knit it into a solid. But other than that, the final steps in 3D Sculptor are knit it into a watertight vessel, which always works, or at least it's always worked for me, and I've created some pretty complicated stuff. And then you would, from 3D Sculptor, you would do file export, and you would go to SLD XML, and then you would just go into SolidWorks and you would open that file. And if you know how 3D interconnect works in SolidWorks, what that means is that you're creating a container location. So if your industrial engineer then changes the sub D model, those changes are going to push right through into SolidWorks via 3D interconnect. So as soon as you replace that SLD XML, you're going to have the file update in SolidWorks, and all your downstream changes are still going to work within reason. So it's a great solution. It's totally compatible with SolidWorks, very clean file translation going into that SLD XML, and definitely something that I've been extremely happy with. I personally do a lot of surface modeling, and I can't believe how much faster I can get this stuff done in 3D Experience. But, you know, not only that, how cleanly the files then move from 3D Experience, from 3D Sculptor right into SolidWorks.
Toby, thank you for that. I mean, I was totally going to say the same thing because I mean, I knew that. I have another great question. And then afterwards, we can move along to governance. Sure. And maybe take the rest of the questions at the end. But somebody did ask, is there a version of cloud server software like this for rendering with something like VisualWorks? There
is indeed. Yep, there is indeed. Great question. And we are going to get into that a little bit later. But there is indeed, yes. Yep, great question. All right, cool. So so with that, let's move on. Let's talk a little bit about governance. And often embedded with governance is just the general topic of collaboration. And when we're talking about collaboration, we're really primarily talking about the very first fundamental role in 3D Experience. And that role is called collaborative business innovator. Collaborative business innovator. That's the first role that most people get. And that's the role that I was demonstrating with my introductory video, where I showed how to make that simple layout with the message board and with the file storage. That's all part of collaborative business innovator. So within Collaborative Business Innovator, we've got the message boarding tool, we've got the file storage tool, we've got a viewer built right into Collaborative Business Innovator. So anyone on the team who has access to the files can just double click on the file and then see the content of that file in 3D, can mark up that file, can add that markup back to the message board. So anyone from the team could say, hey, let's make this diameter a little bit larger, let's make this a little bit smaller, all from that first fundamental role. There's also tools like metrics readers that you can use to get out there to find out things like where is our market presence across the United States. You can see that on the slide that I'm showing here. What's our net profit margin? What's the current revenue generation? These are all things that are going to be very important, especially for the higher level decision makers in the company. And you're going to be able to access these from any device, right from your dashboard, right from your layout. I mentioned, a number of times now, the message board. I mean, we use the message board all the time. One of the biggest elements of the message board is just kind of getting away from email. I know that you've all been in spots where you get CC'd on an email and there's 10 people in the email. Maybe you go away from your desk for 10 minutes and you come back and there's 20 emails sitting there waiting for you from this email chain. All that goes away when you start taking advantage of these message boards. And you could create a message board for each project. You could create a message board for the team. It's very flexible the way that you create these message boards. And there's also different types of posts that you can create. So, the most common post is just a regular, here's a post, and maybe I throw an image in there, everyone can reply to that post. But there's also questions as a type of post, where this is more like a knowledge-based type of a solution, where you can ask a question, and once somebody answers it correctly, you can change the color to green. And that way, as you're looking through the results, you can see, okay, these questions have been answered. It's great for kind of tribal knowledge amongst the company. Whenever somebody has a question, maybe a junior person has a question, senior person can answer it and then share that knowledge with the whole company. You can also set up what are called ideas. Now, an idea is different from a regular post because this is something that you're trying to implement into the design itself. Whatever the project is you're working on, someone can propose an idea, other people can vote on that idea, and the project manager can then move that idea into actual implementation within the project. So as you can see, there's a lot of great tools here that are really dedicated towards this idea of project development and business development. We've also got an instant messenger built right into 3DEXPERIENCE. And I only mention this because I'm sure, a lot of you may have instant messaging solutions already. What's nice about this is that it's entirely integrated. So if you want to share a link to a file with someone, if you want to, redirect someone to a specific message board, it's very easy when you're utilizing one continuous system, when you don't have to jump out and jump into a different instant messaging system. So these are all examples of tools that we have in Collaborative Business Innovator to help with the collaboration amongst your team. Now let's move on and talk a little bit more about a different division of governance, which is the data management side of things. And so that's kind of the other piece of the puzzle. The first piece of the puzzle is just getting everyone together, organizing the team members, the humans, if you will. But the other part of the equation is the data, organizing and managing the data itself, because that's where where a lot of the power from 3DEXPERIENCE comes from, is organizing and accessing this data. So we utilize the Innovia engine to do all of the governance related tasks. This will be things like data management, revision management, workflow management. And we've got a lot of different tools that we can use to help facilitate this. One of the tools that we offer is an app called Project Planner. And what this app lets you do is lets you create and name a project. Like in this case, this one's called New Circular Sol, assign members to that project, and then begin assigning those members tasks. And these tasks are then organized into an actual timeline, into an actual schedule. So we're able to ensure that we're going to be able to meet the demands of our customers and provide them with an accurate quote regarding how long this project is actually going to take. Not only that, we're able to create dynamic links to other areas of 3DEXPERIENCE. So if one of the tasks is, I want you to go into the circular saw and update the guard and turn it into sheet metal, I can have a link right in that task directing to where those files are being stored. So the engineer who receives that task doesn't have to go out searching for, oh, where is that file stored? It's not a problem. Of course, if they can't find it, they can always use our amazing search tools, but it's nice being able just to link right into it from within the project planner. Now, within this portfolio, we've talked about the Collaborative Business Innovator. We talked a little bit about Collaborative Industry Innovator. That's where you get into data management. That's where you get into revision management, ability to review and approve. We also talked a little bit about Project Planner, but we also have some great tools for doing things within SolidWorks. The Collaborative Designer for SolidWorks is the plugin for SolidWorks that lets you take advantage of this. The 3D Product Architect and Product Release Engineer, these are tools that you can use for manufacturer bill of materials to ensure that you're doing proper bill of materials and inventory management and ordering. So we've got a lot of great tools to help you kind of from start to finish with your design process and engineering process. A lot of these tools are going to be found in the governance domain. Ultimately, when it comes to this governance domain, I mean, this is really a big part. A lot of times the kind of flashy part of 3DEXPERIENCE is the simulation, being able to see those really cool animations of those studies being solved. But really, when it comes to a value proposition, I think you're going to see it the most from the governance point of view, from how the data is being organized. And that all comes from being able to connect digitally, from being able to collaborate socially, from being able to hide areas of the business that aren't important to you. The cool thing about 3DEXPERIENCE is when you create these dashboards and these layouts, you only have to bring to the foreground what's most important to you. Just, bring those annual revenue reports up to the foreground, bring your quotas up to the foreground, just bring what's important to you to the foreground and let the other teams handle the other areas of the business. And ultimately, this hopefully will help you to deploy quickly because everyone is able to access the data anytime from any device. This means a lot less waiting for someone else to get to their computer to send you that file, to send you that link. No longer do you have to say, hey, can you send me that file again? Can you send me that link again? Because that information is in the message board and you have access to the message board and you can search the message board. The files are in the file repository that everyone shares, that everyone has access to. So all those hurdles, all those speed bumps in the design process are eliminated by allowing everyone to access the tools from one single location. And of course, that data is all going to be managed in this governance domain. So a couple of quick final domains here. I know that we're just about done with our time together today, but I just wanted to talk to you quickly about the manufacturing and the marketing sales domains. When it comes to the manufacturing domain, we're really talking about everything from the machinist himself generating G-code all the way through to the general process engineering and just kind of overall shop operations. When it comes to the machinist who needs to generate the G-code, we have an amazing suite of tools. Probably the first role that you'd be interested in is called NC Prismatic and Mill Turn Machine Programmer. I know it's a mouthful, but that's going to actually let you get in there and simulate the CNC code, the actual machining process, and then ultimately output the G code. So we've got roles that'll help you with that. We have many roles for the manufacturing, for that side of the manufacturing production. And then we've also got a series of roles that help with kind of everything from the shop floor organization all the way up to the top floor, doing the order management and inventory management and everything in between. I mean, we've got tools like the Lean Team Member tool allows you to understand what's going on across the entire shop floor from a great big touch screen, kind of help to organize and schedule what different machines are doing, help to analyze whether or not certain machines are running at full optimization or whether they're experiencing a lot of downtimes. How many bad parts are you actually manufacturing on the shop floor? We've got tools to capture all this information to help you and your team make the best possible decisions, but also really get the most out of your equipment. Anytime a machine is not running, you're essentially losing money on that machine. So we want to do what we can to help you understand how to get the most out of your equipment on the shop floor. And that all falls into that domain of manufacturing and production. And then I know that was kind of a quick one. I just figured these last two I'd keep kind of quick. I think, I figured we were going to be getting close to the end here when I put this deck together. So the final one, marketing sales. Within marketing sales, we've got a terrific tool, a terrific role called 3D Render. And what the 3D Render tool lets you do is lets you generate renderings like this entirely from 3DEXPERIENCE. So you put the rendering together in a web browser, and once you've got that rendering put together, you are able to process that using the processing computing power from 3DEXPERIENCE, so your machine isn't tied up. You could do, a series of batch of 5, 10, 15 renderings, just kind of send them all off, and you can keep working on your machine because your machine's not tied up doing that rendering. The user interface for this looks a lot like the user interface for 3D Creator or 3D Sculptor. It's entirely web-based, so you're accessing this from a web browser. You can see here that I'm creating a rendering of this circular saw. I'm going to go out and grab some other components from my online file storage. In this case, I'm bringing in those that 2x4 table, that saw table. I'm bringing in the background here, kind of adjusting the background, and then ultimately getting this thing ready to go. I'm able to look at it in a preview, maybe adjust some of the lighting, some of the scene options, the focal length, and then I'm able to control what quality rendering do I want to create. So maybe we create some quick renderings just to share on the message board. Hey, do you think blue looks better? Do you think red looks better? And then we could do some higher quality renderings to share out to the customer to maybe put together some marketing content. So that role is called 3D Render, and that's part of that marketing and sales domain. Lets you go through, lets you specify material options, rendering options, lighting options, and ultimately come up with some pretty nice renderings. So I hope that helps to explain the idea of what 3DEXPERIENCE Works is. It's a collection of roles that are really going to coincide with what you're already doing in the world of SolidWorks. And these roles are broken down into 5 different domains. And the 3DEXPERIENCE Works portfolio, a lot of times you'll hear challenges when you're working with traditional desktop products where you're kind of locked to one machine, where if we compare that to the platform, we've got true cloud integration, which means it's hooked to your user account. You can access those tools from any device. You can jump from one computer to the next, to a tablet, to a phone, and you can still access all of your information. Those files, on a traditional solution might be scattered on multiple drives or in multiple locations, but with 3DEXPERIENCE, all your files are going to be in one spot. Your entire team is going to potentially be able to access that info, not necessarily, because you might not want everyone on your team to have access to every file. So you're able to control that based on user credentials. You could invite or not invite certain members to certain file repositories, but all the information is in one spot for the team to access. When you're working with traditional, desktop products, each user might feel kind of isolated. But when you're working with 3DEXPERIENCE, we want your teams to all feel connected, and really we want you to bring your customers into that process as well. Invite them in, allow them to participate in these message boards, allow them to help drive the design, share with them what you're doing. It's a great way to help further differentiate yourself from maybe your competitors. And with traditional products, they're going to be kind of CAD centric, where we're looking to provide everything you need to go all the way from design to manufacturing and all the business needs in between. And finally, we want you to be able to deliver continuous innovation. When you purchase a desktop program, you purchase it once, and then each year you have to update it. You have to update it again, maybe purchase a new version of that software. When it comes to 3DEXPERIENCE solutions, these are going to be updated automatically. They're updated a number of times throughout the year, and when they're updated, you're continuously getting new innovation, new tools, new functionality, new capabilities, and it just happens immediately. It happens over a weekend. You stop work on Friday, come back to work on Monday, and all of a sudden you have some new tools you didn't have on Friday. So I hope that we accomplished the goal of kind of spelling out the idea of what 3DEXPERIENCE is, kind of some of the key benefits that you get from 3DEXPERIENCE. But ultimately, my goal was that by the end of the presentation, this explanation would make a lot of sense. If somebody comes up to you and says, hey, what is 3DEXPERIENCE? You could say it's a web portal. Your whole team logs into it. There's different tools in there for things like business development, product development, and it's all in one unified system. And if somebody says, oh, well, how is that different from another, online portal that we have? I think one of the biggest things that differentiates 3DEXPERIENCE from other solutions is it's just kind of how engineering centric it is. When you've got files in 3DEXPERIENCE, just in the base role in Collaborative Business Innovator, anyone on the team can double click on those files and view them in 3D. You're not going to get that from other tools that help to unify your teams. When you're working with 3DEXPERIENCE, you're going to have tools that are specifically designed for engineering type processes, like the manufacturer bill of materials tools, like the high-end simulation tools, even like the rendering tools. The idea of 3DEXPERIENCE is really something that it differentiates itself in that degree, because if you think about it, the entire history of 3DEXPERIENCE and of Dassault, it all came from engineering type backgrounds. It doesn't mean you can't use the tools for other things, like organizing events and things like that. But, really, I think you're going to see a lot of the differentiation between how easy it is for every member of your team to access, to view, to measure, to mark up your 3D models, and to use that communication, to take those markups and push them onto a message board, to use that communication to help drive the design. So that's it for me. I want to say, of course, thank you so much to Design Point for putting on such an awesome event. I loved bouncing around in the lobby earlier today. I loved the introduction by Fran. That really helped me understand how I was supposed to navigate that interface. And it's not the same as being in person with everybody. I miss seeing everybody in person. But if anybody has any questions for me, feel free to ask them in the chat. I'm also going to be kind of hanging around in the main Hangout lobby after the presentation is over. I'm happy to answer any questions that anybody has in there as well.
Fantastic. You did a phenomenal job, as always, Toby. Much appreciated. And yeah, you can either visit Toby at the main networking room under, the networking tab, or you can also stop by the 3DEXPERIENCE booth and then join the 3DEXPERIENCE chat. Toby will probably be in both of those. We are running a little bit short on time, but I am seeing someone's giving you major kudos. They're saying that this is the best description of the 3DX
Yeah,
that they've
shout out
seen
to
in a
Ron.
while.
Thanks a lot for the kind
That's
words.
awesome. Me too. I think this is great. But to that degree, I want to be sure that I respect everyone's time. I wish I could unmute everybody so we could be like, yeah, Toby, you did a great job. So yeah, stop by the platform booth, stop by those 2 chat rooms, ask any other questions, and Toby will be more than happy to address them. Toby rocks, another one. Look at you, you got fans.
Thank you. Well, I hope ultimately, I hope that just helped, you go out there, if you're going out, if you're making decisions, if you're, if people are coming at you and they're like, are you going to buy this role? Are you going to buy this app? Are you going to buy this? Are you going to buy that? 3D experience works. There's a lot of terms that get thrown around. So I hope that helped to kind of break down some of those terms and helped everybody to understand, what's going on with 3D experience and what your options are. And, different members of your team don't need all the same roles. So it's all about trying to figure out what your team needs, and then you can figure out what roles you'll need.
Ooh, and another shout out from Dave Case. New
All
Dynamics
right, Dave. What's up, my
recently
man?
switched to Design Point. Thank you, Dave. We're super excited. And okay, this is like the best fan club ever. I'm going to see all you guys in the chat room. I'm going to close this out, but thank you once again. Thanks, everyone.
Awesome. Thanks, everybody. Bye-bye.